Before you walk past a patch of bluebells this spring, there are a few things worth knowing. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a horticulturist and a flower grower. There is a moment every spring, usually just as things begin to settle into the season, when the woodland floor turns completely blue. A soft, hazy carpet that almost doesn't look real. And that is our gorgeous bluebells. And for me, they are one of the most recognisable signs of the English countryside in spring. Beautiful flowers and deeply tied into our landscape. So what are bluebells and where do they come from? So our native bluebells are called Hyacinthoides non-scripta, and it's a bulbous perennial. And what's really special is that the UK actually holds a huge proportion of the world's population of bluebells, particularly in ancient woodland. So when you're walking through a bluebell wood here, you're not just looking at something pretty, you're looking at something quite rare on a global scale. They're perfectly adapted to woodland life. They come up early in the spring and then they flower before the tree canopy closes, take all that light whilst it's available, and then disappear again by early summer. So people say to me that they suddenly seem to appear every year, and I think that's what fascinates people the most. They feel like they just appear out of nowhere. Really, it's all happening under the ground. So bluebells grow from bulbs, and those bulbs sit quietly beneath the soil all year, and they slowly multiply over time, and they form these dense colonies. And they also have what are called contractile roots, which means it actually pulls the bulb deeper into the soil to the perfect level of moisture and protection that they particularly need. So every year they're coming back stronger and more established and spreading gradually. And I think that's why they're quite difficult to get rid of, because the bulbs go so deep. And one of my favourite things about bluebells is that they are considered an indicator of ancient woodland. So if you see a dense carpet of native bluebells, there's a good chance that the land has been woodland for hundreds of years. And they don't colonise quickly, so when they're in numbers, it really tells a story. And then there's the scent. It's quite delicate, but once you notice it, especially in the evening, it's unmistakable. A soft, sweet perfume that carries through the trees. And the scent plays a role too. It's very important. Bluebells are an important early source of nectar for pollinators. So you'll see things like bumblebees and woodland bees and even hoverflies moving through them. And they flower at exactly the right time when pollinators are just becoming active again after winter and food sources are still quite limited. So they're doing an important job, not just looking beautiful. Here are a few of my growing tips. If you've got bluebells in your garden, or even if you're just observing them in the wild, this is really important to understand. You must let the leaves die back naturally. It's very tempting to tidy them away once they've finished flowering, but that foliage is what feeds the bulb for next year. So if you cut it back too early, then you can weaken the plant and then you'll get fewer flowers the following spring. Or if they are under a tree like this, you don't want to mow them back too quickly. Spanish versus English bluebells. So now this is where it gets quite interesting, because not all bluebells you see are actually native. So our native is obviously the Hyacinthoides non-scripta, but you'll also come across Hyacinthoides hispanica and hybrids between the two of them. The difference are quite clear once you know what to look for. The English native bluebells have a deep violet blue colour, very narrow tubular flowers. All the flowers sit on one side of the stem, and the stem itself has that gentle droop, and they have a noticeable scent. Now the Spanish bluebells are much more upright. Flowers are all the way around the stem. They have broader leaves. They're paler in blue and often in pink, and sometimes in white as well. And they have very little or no scent. The issue is Spanish bluebells are far more vigorous and they spread easily, and they can outcompete our native plants, and they also hybridize with them, which threatens the purity of our native bluebell population. So from a garden point of view, it's always worth choosing a native stock if you're going to plant some. cutting bluebells for a vase. Now, cutting bluebells, this is where I'd always just be very mindful. In the wild, native bluebells are protected, so you shouldn't be picking them from woodlands. But if you're growing them in your own garden, you can absolutely bring a few inside. One thing I found that really helps, and this is just from doing it for years, is that if you sear the ends in some boiling water for about 10 seconds and then plunge them straight into cold water, they do seem to last a little bit longer in a vase. So that's just what works for me. And then strip off any leaves that would sit obviously below the waterline if there are any, and then just keep them somewhere cool and not in any direct sun. And then obviously just change the water as frequently as you can. They're not a long-lasting cut flower, but what they give you is a beautiful scent indoors and that really natural, slightly wild look in a vase. I think what I love most about bluebells is that they're not trying to be showy. They're not bred, they're not forced. They just return year after year, exactly when they should. And if you've ever stood in a bluebell wood in full flower, then you'll know it's one of those things that never, ever really loses its impact.